Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind you that while Caitlin and Sophia are dietitians, we're not your dietitians. This means the information shared in the Food Freedom Fertility podcast is intended to entertain, educate, and inform. It is not a substitute for medical care. This information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making any changes.
We are back for another summer interlude episode, and we are super excited to have the illustrious, the very talented, and leader of all things nutrition at Nutrisense, Registered Dietitian, Catherine Staffieri. She's back. She was with us early May, so if you're looking for like a super long intro, head back to that episode. But Catherine is here representing Nutrisense today as a season sponsor, which we're very excited about, and with some news about some changes that are happening at Nutrisense in their offerings that we think you'll be really interested in. So Catherine, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you guys so much for having me back. I guess I didn't mess up too badly on the first one. You allowed me to come back for a second bite at the apple, so I appreciate it.
No.
We loved having you on. I remember having a lot of fun recording that one too.
Yeah.
Same. It was great. It was awesome.
So as a part of Nutrisense sponsoring this podcast, they were kind enough to send Sophia and myself some continuous glucose monitors, because that's what Nutrisense does. If you haven't listened to the other episode or haven't heard of this company, Nutrisense is, well, I'll let you say, Catherine, what Nutrisense is, because maybe that shift in evolving, maybe it's different than what I think it is.
Totally. So we are a health tech startup, and I guess I don't know how long you have to be around to still be considered a startup, but we're still a startup. We started in 2019, and we offer three things to our member base. We offer hardware, software, and a personalized like one-on-one touch. So the hardware is the actual CGM, continuous glucose monitor, CGM. That's the hardware, and we get those from Abbott. It's the Freestyle Libres or the Dexcom sensors. So that's the hardware. The software is our app, which is really amazing, super robust, filled with lots of metrics and learnings and things like that. And then we offer a specialized one-on-one support from a nutritionist on our team to help you interpret that data and to help you reach your health goals.
That's
wow,
so great.
okay.
Because I, even as a dietitian, pulling it out and like checking my blood sugar, you know, I have all this kind of knowledge, you know, like, oh, this is why that happened and what I could change. But if you're not in this and you're not doing this every day, it might be a little bit more difficult to get through the nuance of it. And so that expert kind of touch point I can see is really valuable.
So we've always offered one-on-one nutrition support, but we previously were offering it through in-app chat. So you had a nutritionist following along with you, helping you guide you towards your health goals as you're tracking all of this data. But it was all through written text messages, which was great because that's like, fairly flexible. You can be in your car, you could be at, the office, you could be, Timbuktu, and you can be chatting with your nutritionist. But we've since pivoted to a video call format, which, though not as flexible, is really, really powerful and makes for
100%.
such a better member experience. And
yeah, to even just be able to have like a
because
conversational appointment with somebody where you can kind of go back and forth about things. And some of us are really verbal processors, and so as you're kind of talking about like, well, my overnight oats did this, but when I cooked them fresh, it did this, and I haven't had a breakfast that isn't porridge ever in my life because I'm Scottish, and what do I do now? And, to like have these kinds of conversations with people where you kind of go back and forth, and it is so, so helpful, even for things like, Caitlin and I, and probably Catherine too, we know how to sort of zhuzh up a cornbread, a pasta dish, there's really no way to not be able to eat something that at least kind of resembles your favorites on a regular basis. Maybe, you're not having like your favorite French chocolate croissant every day for breakfast, but there are things in that vein that you can eat regularly. Caitlin and I have Instagram pages filled with nothing. Caitlin's developing these recipes even as we speak. Tons of this stuff from us. But if you don't have that and you're like, what do I do now? Because I don't really know what to do without my like 6-inch Subway sandwich for lunch. Talking to someone that can like easily rattle off 6 lunch options within the same half-mile radius of where you work, that's going to keep your blood sugar where it needs to be, that is really, really helpful. And that's sort of like what you would get from Catherine's service she's talking about here, that you're not going to get from not even the texting, but like people try to use like Chat GPT for this. That's fine for like, hey, tell me a sauce recipe that doesn't have garlic, but not for things that are so nuanced like this.
Totally. And we can go through your data like in real time, right? So I can pull up your data and we can go through it together, and I can identify those trends that maybe you're not seeing. You're like, oh wow, I guess I really am, my morning glucose is starting to trend higher, or oh gosh, I didn't realize it actually was going down. Like I've made so much progress. That having that professional, the expert, the glucose expert following along and seeing that kind of stuff can be really, really helpful, 100%. And you can really build that rapport, right? Like you're talking to someone, you're laughing with them. You can like really gain a better, motivation on both parties, right? Like how much better is it jiving with your doctor, or when your doctor comes in and is like ding 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 done, like you feel like you're not being heard, right? But here you are, you're talking to someone that really cares about your health goals.
Yeah, that's very true. And that's a wonderful touch. And really, so Caitlin and I kind of work on like two different spectrums of the blood sugar for fertility scale. So Caitlin being the PCOS specialist, one of the hallmarks of PCOS is that insulin resistance piece, that glucose going too high or staying too high for too long is sort of one of the hallmarks of insulin resistance, although sometimes you won't even see that because someone's insulin is so high, but it's still working. And so their blood sugars may look normal. But having excess insulin and blood sugars going too high tends to be kind of more the PCOS piece. Whereas where I'm working in the low progesterone part of it, that absolutely can be part of it sometimes. But I far more see women who are having low blood sugars, who are reacting to carbohydrate in a hypoglycemic way, that instead of your blood, you eat some corn tortillas and instead of your blood sugar going really high, it raises a bit and then you will tank out afterwards. Like your body reacts to the insulin way too hard and you have low blood sugars. And what you were just saying, like working with someone who can look at that and start to piece together how you're feeling, because I see a lot of like having this major crash in the afternoon and reaching for another caffeinated drink or some candy or something to pick me up and keep me going through the day. Meanwhile, now it's 10 at night and I'm eyes wide open in bed, and we have to backtrack through the day. But that's what this dietitian or nutritionist can do for you, right? Like help you backtrack through the day and see this anxiety that you think you're waking up with in the middle of the night and this insomnia. Your blood sugar is 50 when that's happening. Your blood sugar is super low. That's what's waking you up. That's why you can't sleep. So even though you thought you had this great blood sugar, even after your big bowl of mint chip ice cream, 4 hours later, your blood sugar is in the dumpster and you're waking up sweaty and nervous. And I say this because this was my exact experience. And this is like what we talked about on our last, we talked about this the last time we had her on, and she straight up like diagnosed me in the episode with this reactive hypoglycemia. And it is something that even I was dealing with as a registered dietitian, and it's a pattern I see constantly in my patients, but it's not something you're going to just necessarily notice immediately on your own.
I want to take a minute out of this episode and talk to you about our partner, Fertility Cloud. We decided to partner with Fertility Cloud this season because we have worked with women all over the nation, and we have heard the same issues arise again and again. My doctor can't see me for another 8 weeks. I had to wait 3 months to see a specialist, and even then, they didn't really tell me anything. Or there's no one in my small town that knows anything about my situation or can help me. And that's so common because unless you live in a major metropolitan area or a place that has grand medical universities, and honestly, sometimes even then it's still an issue, it's really hard to find fertility specialists who can give you tailored, customized help for your unique fertility situation. And that, my friend, is exactly what Fertility Cloud does for you. They offer everything you need, but right in your home because it's fully online. Another perk is they often have same day or next day appointments, so no waiting weeks and weeks and weeks in order to be seen by someone. And my favorite thing of all, really the pièce de résistance and the reason we are partnered with Fertility Cloud for this season, is they have a love and a passion for helping families grow. It is why they do what they do. It is why they wake up in the morning. It is why they have this world-class staff who cannot wait to step in and help you along your journey. So if this sounds like what you have been dreaming of, click the link in our show notes and go to fertilitycloud.com for $50 off your first visit.
And nor will you really know how to problem solve, right? So the CGM is so great because you can identify the problem, but you might not even know how to fix it. And so having that partner, having that expert there to walk you through different ways to fix it, and you get immediate feedback, right? So you're like, okay, here's the pattern, here's the problem, nighttime or big reactive hypoglycemia. Now let's try out these different solutions that I think might work for you. And how wonderful is it to have a partnership, a practitioner, someone that has actionable items for you to do to make you feel better. I mean, people always say to me like, why should I wear this? I don't have diabetes. Like, I'm fine.
Every day.
I'm like, everyone can feel better. And I promise you can feel better if you start paying attention to what's going on with your blood sugar levels.
Amen.
And you can feel better like tomorrow, right? Like you can make these changes.
You could have a better night's sleep tonight. Yes. And I see that so much because sleep is so vital for fertility and for adequate progesterone production. And I see the same kind of thing as women think they've got all this insomnia. So they're like moving heaven and earth to try to get good sleep, and they're taking melatonin, they're taking Unisom, they're taking 5-HTP, passion flower, sleep, all these things, thinking my brain just won't shut off so I can sleep. And really it's your brain is starving for glucose. And that's, or the opposite. So what I see like the crash in the middle of the night. Sometimes that's your brain starving for glucose in the night, waking you up so you don't die. But I see the other way around too, where women like don't eat all day and they think they're being like healthy. They have like a bar for lunch and a green juice, and that's like all they have eaten today. And then they come home at night and they eat a huge meal and a big snack before bed, and their brain is like, finally, fuel. And so that's when you start thinking all your thoughts and doing all your things and have this big burst of energy in the evenings. And you can identify this where you thought you were being healthy, and you sit down with this practitioner and they're like, I'm noticing that like 70% of your calories don't even hit your body until after 6 p.m. This is not the right way to eat and live. And that can solve a lot of issues right there.
And I think also, people's goals tend to shift as they wear the monitor, right? They think they're coming for, one thing, and it ends up that they're like, whoa, wait a minute. Like now all of a sudden, oh, maybe I can build muscle. Like, oh, wait a minute. Now all of a sudden, like I'm not going to intermittent fast, or, like all of a sudden these things that they thought really weren't even negotiable become like a new goal or a new pattern or behavior. And so it's really wonderful. And a lot of times we can like liberalize things for people, right? A lot of women come to us so structured and rigid, or frankly exhausted because they've tried everything. And then we try and help them like, it's okay. Like try this, like we're going to learn what your body can handle, and we're going to learn how it can handle it, so that you can have mint chip ice cream and you don't wake up in, drenched in sweat and, gasping for air in the middle of the night. Right.
Cool. I'm so glad to be partnering with you guys. So part of this partnership, listeners, is that Caitlin and I are going to wear these monitors ourselves. And Caitlin, can you show us yours? It's already on.
Got like this black kind of Band-Aid like thing over it.
Like athletic tape.
You don't have to wear this, but I find as a mother of a 2-year-old, it quite necessary because it's like this layer of barrier because I've worn CGMs before without the kind of cover on it, and my 2-year-old has tried to rip it out. So it is kind of nice to have an extra layer. So the black circle that you're seeing isn't the CGM. It's kind of like a Band-Aid over the CGM. And then it's like a little circle that's inserted. And I think that maybe one of the most common questions that people get or ask me about is like, how uncomfortable is it to wear? And even myself, I had some trepidation about putting the first one on the first time I ever did it, a few years ago. And it was not bad at all. Like, honestly, the sound of it is scarier than the feel of it. It's, it's almost like you kind of shot a BB gun or something where it's like you're kind of pulling something back and then it slaps. Yeah. But it's like somebody poked you with a little bit of a thick thread that they're sewing with. Like it's not as scary as it sounds.
I don't have mine on yet, and so I was thinking we could do that now and here. Actually, I wasn't thinking that.
Let's do it.
I'm not gonna lie. These other two ladies came up with this idea. They're like, "Are you wearing yours yet?" And I was like, "It's right here. It's in the box near me." That's how it works, right? You just bring the box near you, and that's. Oh no, you have to put it on. Oh, so we're gonna do it, and you can see and hear in real time,
that baby.
We're gonna do an unboxing.
So if you're listening to this on the pod, if you're listening in your car or listening while you're cooking in the kitchen, we have a YouTube channel that we also air episodes, so you can stare at us while we talk if you want to and feel like you're hanging out with us. You will see that I am sweaty and just got off a Peloton. Catherine showed up like the professional she is, and Sophia came running in with her cute little bangs, and she's opening this box right now. So I'm going to narrate a little bit. She's opening up the box that probably was sent like 2-day air or something.
Okay.
Then there's a box within a box.
Here's what we've got. Take all the collateral out first. So you get some info about the sensor, your quick start guide, and something about the pharmacy that sent this. If you're interested in that, you can keep it. I'm not. And then a little envelope. So we're going to open it up. And it's a spider. Oh no, I'm just kidding. It's not a spider. It is some alcohol swabs and the little stickers Caitlin's talking about. So these come with your monitor so that you can get a little extra layer of protection. You get multiple of them in case you get wet and sweaty and it starts getting kind of sticky, or you're out in the sun and it's melting off your arm or something like that. Though, honestly, the tape is it's like high quality. I did not have any of that. I didn't feel like it was like coming off at any point. But, everybody has different skin type and hair amounts and things like that.
And activities and sweat.
And activities and climates.
And you can swim. Yep, you can swim with it on. You can, I do highly recommend putting some kind of bandage over it if it's not ours, like a Tegaderm, like those clear film ones. Just because really, especially for women, the sports bras will ping it off. If you're like taking off a sports bra pretty aggressively, that can take a sensor out.
Who doesn't take
easily.
off a sports bra aggressively? Get that off of me fast as possible.
Or any bra, frankly.
All right, now we're going to open the box right here. There's a sound for you. And inside we have got directions for the sensor. You can see they're really, really straightforward. Just a picture of what to do. So to describe to those of you who can't see it, the part it's saying you want to put it on, it's not the back of your arm like here. It's really the underneath part of your arm. The part that like, remember when like your grandma would like wave to you and there'd be like a little waddle underneath? Poke yourself in the waddle. That's where you want it to go. So that's where the first picture is. The second picture is the alcohol swab, and then it actually gets into how to do the thing. So we're going to do the alcohol swab, and I don't have any like lotions or perfumes or deodorants on this part of my arm, or really any part of my body.
So the alcohol is necessary, and some people are like, what actually is happening with the sensor? And the sensor is a little sort of plastic disc, and there's a tiny little filament, and that's what's reading your glucose. And so you are actually inserting that filament into your skin, hence
So you want it to be
the need
as
for the
sterile
alcohol
as you
swab.
can.
We are so glad you're enjoying this episode, and we want to take a brief moment to talk about one of our sponsors, Fullwell. Fullwell is not only a reproductive nutrition supplement company created and formulated by a registered dietitian, but they are a company that has the highest quality standards. They use the most bioavailable ingredients in the right amounts to ensure that you're getting the most out of your supplement. And let me tell you about one specific supplement, the Fertility Booster. The Fertility Booster is a combination of adaptogenic herbs and powerful antioxidants. Oxidative stress is something that occurs in every single body, and when it's accumulated, it can deplete antioxidants. Upping the antioxidants in the body by turning on the antioxidant protection system through food and supplementation is one way to support the body's free radical defenses and better support fertility overall. Oxidative stress impacts all humans, and this is one thing I love about the Fertility Booster. It helps supercharge both egg and sperm quality. You've heard about stress and how it can impact so many things in our body, and how so many people just say, hey, just relax and you'll get pregnant. Well, ashwagandha is actually an adaptogenic herb, and it can help reduce cortisol levels and increase sexual function. So the next time someone tells you to just relax, you can say, hey, no, I don't need to just relax. I'm taking the Fertility Booster by Fullwell and supporting myself in this way. When we talk about powerful antioxidants, one of them that is the king of the show is coenzyme Q10. In its reduced form, it functions as an antioxidant in cell membranes and lipoproteins, helping to optimize fertility. And the queen of the show, in my opinion, N-acetylcysteine. It's a supplement form of cysteine, a semi-essential amino acid that benefits fertility via its role as a precursor to glutathione. It can also support healthy cervical mucus. So next time you're ordering your Fullwell Fertility Prenatal, make sure that you grab a hold of their Fertility Booster so you and your partner can get a healthy dose of these antioxidants and stress support. Use the code FFF20 at checkout to get 20% off your first order. And now, back to our show.
Okay, so now we have a hospital apple juice. Just kidding, that's what it looks like. We have a little applesauce here. And this is the actual sensor. So you peel the top off of this. And then you take your applicator. All right, and then you line up the pieces. I'm scared I'm going to get this wrong.
So the applicator kind of
There we
looks
go, I got
like, if you've ever worked at an administrative job, like those things that you put your return address on that you like push down and stamp.
Stamper.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what it looks like, and kind of what it feels like when you're putting the sensor on it. You're going to hear that right now.
Okay. And then the sensor is now inside. And you're going to see that there is a needle, okay? That's a needle. That is not what's going to stay in your arm. You're not going to have a metal needle in your arm for 2 weeks. That's not how this works.
Just needs to make an opening.
Mm-hmm.
But even
Okay,
at
guys.
that, it doesn't feel like a shot or getting your blood drawn. It's nothing like that.
No.
And I actually
Is my
find it
positioning
much,
good?
much less uncomfortable than like a finger prick.
Fire away.
Okay, get ready, listen
Saints
for it.
preserve us. Here we go.
Did that hurt at all?
There's a
Mild
sting.
discomfort.
I would say a sting, I would liken it unto maybe got just snapped with a rubber band,
My,
but it's already
my
going away.
2-year-old pinching you.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
she does like to pinch me. And so there it is. And I'm going to put the tape on next, right? That's the thing to do next. And it just peels like a Band-Aid.
Now, fair warning that that will stick to your sensor. So it's really, you can't take the Band-Aid off and keep the sensor in. Those two are kind of married together once you put that on. So if you take the bandage off, your sensor will likely come out as well.
So the ones I got sent had like a little inner circle.
Yeah.
To find it. And
Did you leave that part
an
on?
outer circle. So I left the inner circle part on so it didn't actually stick to the sensor.
Smart.
So like
Okay,
I
well, I
just
didn't do
peeled
that.
away the edge and then lined that up. Well, you have 4, you could do another one. I don't know.
Yeah, let's do another one.
I
Yeah,
just thought if something were to happen,
And you can put
it'd
them
be
here
nice to have options.
so that you don't have to wear any padding in your bathing suit. Could you imagine pulling that off, though? This tape is really
But
sticky.
think about pulling that off.
Yeah.
I actually think when I've had the CGMs in before, taking the Band-Aid-y thing off was more uncomfortable than taking the CGM off itself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought the same thing.
And then
Okay, so we've got the
Go ahead.
inner circle still
The next-
on. Let me line it up.
Protect your inner circle. So next thing Sophia's going to do if she hasn't deleted the app, if she's deleted the app from last time she used it, she's going to re-download the Nutrisense app, but she might still have it on her phone. She'll need to
do.
open it up, kind of create a login, and then there's just this little button you press on your phone that says scan new sensor, and then you scan it, and then there's a period of like calibration, which is usually about an hour. Mine did it a little bit faster this time, where you're not going to really get your first reading until after that hour is up.
Yeah, it takes a little while to warm up, if you will. The sensor takes a little time to warm up. And then there's like a sort of a settling in period of like 12 to 24 hours. You might see some weird kind of wonky readings, either super high or super low or something. That's just the sensor kind of getting to know you. And then once that period's over, you're off to the races.
Okay.
So talk to me a little bit about like what behind the scenes happens for somebody to get a CGM, because you're not just giving someone a CGM, right? There's got to be someone prescribing it, right? In between
Wait. I'm at the part where
them
it
ordering it
says,
from
what do I do
Nutrisense
now?
and it coming.
I got to scan in the CGM,
I'm
yeah?
sorry,
I can't see it
can't
well
see your
enough.
screen.
Oh, sorry. I'll
Plus
tell you.
button
So
on the
I
bottom
just
right.
like opened the app. How do I scan in a new CGM?
Is there a plus button on the bottom right?
Yeah.
And what happens when you push it?
Scan sensor. Did it.
So Catherine,
All right,
what's
and it's
happening
just that
behind the
easy,
scenes
huh?
at this company?
It is just that easy. And behind the scenes, so yeah, if someone's interested in signing up for the subscription, you can go on our website and go through the process. And yes, we work with a pharmacy to issue those, because they are generally not under a prescription. So they get sent to you. You can opt into our Dexcom study, or you can opt out, and then you will get a Libre. Libre sensor life is 14 days. Dexcom sensor life is 10 days. So you just have to change them out a little bit more frequently with the Dexcom, but the Dexcom does not require scanning. Dexcoms are Bluetooth enabled, and so the data is just streamed directly to your phone. So that can make it a little bit easier for people that perhaps forget to scan. And the other question is, some people think, oh, am I supposed to scan right before and after a meal, or how does this work? And the sensor itself, the actual disc, will store your data for up to 8 hours. So as long as you're only scanning, 3 times a day, or, once every 8 hours, you will capture a full 24 hours worth of data.
Yes.
There were a couple nights this past week where I was, I scanned it after dinner or something and forgot to scan it right before I went to bed, and then slept for about 8 hours, which is great that I slept that long. Then I woke up and was like, oh man, so I missed not just the sleeping time, but the couple hours after dinner before I went to bed. So, depending on your strengths as an individual, you might actually prefer the Dexcom for that benefit. I think for myself, I would probably go for the one that wasn't emitting something, even though it's a small something. I'd rather like scan it with my phone. I'd rather
choose when it's transmitting something versus having it just always. Yeah, it depends on what you're
change
looking
the
for.
reminders.
Is that a setting you can turn off? On
Yeah,
the
well, you
Dexcom?
can change the frequency with which the app will remind you to scan. So right now it just reminds you to scan once every 8 hours, but you can remind it to scan you more frequently. Remind you to scan more frequently. So there's a lot of different settings you can adjust.
We're taking a break from this episode to talk to you about one of our wonderful sponsors called Nutrisense. So this isn't just another health trend. This is a program that helps everyone take control of their health and fertility by making lasting changes based on their unique needs. Nutrisense is loved by over 100,000 members, and it offers a unique combination of expert nutritionist support from credentialed experts with continuous glucose monitoring data insights. So it's science plus a human touch, and it offers one-on-one support from the expert nutritionist team at Nutrisense. So basically what Nutrisense does is it gives you the support you need along with the data that you're getting from a continuous glucose monitor. Combining those two together with Nutrisense offers you a science-backed way to take control of your health unlike anything else out there. It's access to the continuous glucose monitor as well as guidance from a nutritionist so that you can interpret this data and turn it into lasting results in your body. If you've listened to this podcast for more than 90 seconds, you know that we really don't believe in like a one-size-fits-all nutrition plan, and that things really need to be tailored to an individual for their personal health and fertility goals in order to succeed. And that's really what Nutrisense offers. If this sounds like something you're interested in, which, P.S., you should be interested in this, head over to nutrisense.io/FFF and use the code FFF50 to get $50 off your first month with Nutrisense.
When you think about from a dietitian's perspective, what this technology, kind of interactive software tracking capability, and then that individual touch point with an expert that actually studied nutrition is in this data all the time. Like, what do you feel like this is really offering that somebody hasn't been able to access in the past, unless, frankly, that they may have had diabetes? Because this is kind of a new, albeit not like yesterday new trend, but it is something that's kind of becoming more popular as
It
health
seems more
information
accessible now than ever.
technology.
For sure, and I think you touched on a really good point, because yes, the data is more accessible, but what do you do with it, right? It's like an Oura ring. Like, sure, now I have all of this data, but what do I do with it? How do I interpret this? Like, I wore a Whoop band and I was like, great, but I don't know what to do with this data. So we have these amazing professionals that have gone through rigorous training with us. Like, not only are they credentialed in their own right, either as a registered dietitian or a CNS, meaning they've gone through lots of credentialing, they've passed exams, they've done coursework, they've worked in other places. But we then have them go through a glucose certification course within our own company that we have developed. And so they are really, truly experts in glucose, in looking at the glucose data, in knowing what some of the various ways that you can counsel someone to improve their glucose, right? So I'm not just here to point out like, oh, wow, you went up to 178. Like, duh. You know what I mean? Like, that's
I
not
can see
helpful.
that too.
So
Right.
now we need to figure out, okay, what caused you to go up to 178? What are some ways? I see you're going up to 178 pretty frequently. What are some, here are some things that I think you could do that might be really easy for you based on your lifestyle, based on your stress level, based on the foods available to you. So that's when our counseling expertise and our general nutrition knowledge, we have a lot of performance based, like performance specific experts, nutrition experts. We have nutrition experts that are really digging into women's health, like the menopause transition, perimenopause. So we just have all these like really, really smart, bright people that can help you kind of depending on wherever you are.
And talk to me
So
about what that costs, because I think a lot of people look at it and they go like, well, I just spent a few $100s on the CGM. What am I going to pay on top of that? You have some good news there, right?
I do. So what we are offering now is obviously the CGM subscriptions, and the pricing is on our website. But what we are offering is this insurance covered nutrition calls. So that the change is that instead of just getting in-app text messaging support, I would say I think 90% of our members that go through our insurance check are eligible for at least 3 up to unlimited nutrition visits, and that's through your insurance. So potentially there's a copay, potentially not, potentially it's completely out of pocket, nothing, zero cost out of pocket. But if the small chance is that you are not eligible via your insurance, we do offer everyone a 30-minute complimentary call that is not eligible. So you get your sensor, you put it on, you have that complimentary call with your nutritionist. And then if you do choose to, we do have options to pay up for additional support if you so choose.
Which, I mean, Sophia and I know people listen to this podcast all the time, and there are people that take the information and run with it. They follow us on Instagram. They're like, this changed my life. You helped me have a baby. We don't know their name. But then there's a whole handful of people, and I just had a new client that I met with on last Friday, and she's like, I need your support like every other week. I know I'll do it if I check in with you and have accountability. And
oh my
if you
gosh,
just give
what
me a plan
wonderful
and I'm on my
self-awareness
own.
this lady has. That is awesome.
Truly. And I think a lot of times, especially with a pinch financially, people are like, well, I want to DIY it because I don't have an extra few hundred to spend on this or on that. But if you're already paying for insurance, your company's covering your insurance, why not check out if that's an option? So that leads me to another question. Can people check their insurance benefits before they order the CGM, or can they access this nutrition help even if they choose not to get a CGM?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. So we are offering nutrition help, video call chat, even for people without a CGM subscription. So you can go on our website, you can go through the process. It will tell you as you're going through whether you are eligible. We will then if you are eligible, it'll say, great, why don't you book an appointment with someone today, or tomorrow. But if you are not eligible, it will then allow you to do that 30-minute call, which is something for nothing. It's not it's not zero, but it really is helpful for people to have that face-to-face, as you said, accountability. Again, some people are like, nope, I'm good. One is great, and other people are like, I need that weekly check-in. And that's really what we see, particularly when you are wearing the CGM, to have someone watching that data week over week, because you're making changes and you want someone to validate those changes and say, okay, is this, if you're tracking your calories, you don't necessarily see what's happening. Like you don't see the change, but when you're tracking your glucose and you're making those changes, you can see that in real time, what's happening. Like, oh, Skittles, not a great idea. Like, oh, salted nuts, much better for my glucose, like that kind of stuff. And you can see how that changes week over week.
I love this technology for people who don't have insulin resistance to the point where it's pre-diabetic or diabetic and their doctor's concerned. I was just in a visit with my husband and his primary care doctor earlier this week, and his fasting glucose is over 100, and I'm concerned because I know things. And his doctor's like, oh, it's no big deal. And you can have insulin resistance long before it ever develops to the point where it's pre-diabetes.
Before your pancreas is like shutting down. Like that's not the goal, is to just ride your pancreas like a racehorse 24/7 until it eventually has a heart attack. Like that's not the goal.
And I think, when you're talking about health for a lifetime, we're helping people get pregnant. And then you have a baby. You want to be around for that baby. You also need to set healthy habits in your household for that baby, and it growing into a child, and then that child learning how to make its own food and live on its own. And so there can be a huge impact by just getting some knowledge, even if your A1C isn't 5.7 and above, even if your fasting glucose isn't at 120, it's just barely over 100. It could have just been that day. Like, I'm tired of hearing that from doctors, and we need to be on a more proactive / preventative pace with our own health, because the system doesn't catch us until it's too late, really. And this information being as accessible as scan it on your phone or it'll talk to your phone for you is really incredible, because people can make intentional change before it is too late, while it can still make a huge impact.
Absolutely. It's all about preventative, because again, if you have a piece of cake today, you're not going to have a heart attack tomorrow. You're not going to get diabetes tomorrow, right? But it's that whole idea of you guys are helping these women work towards a goal of having a baby, getting pregnant, having a healthy pregnancy. It's the same thing, right? We're trying to help women navigate basically any aspect of their lives. We take anyone from 18 onwards, but it's that long game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You're doing this stuff to have longevity and to have a much healthier life going forward, whether you've been diagnosed with something or not.
And to that point, you don't necessarily need to wear a CGM for the rest of your life. It could be the thing where you get some health gains and then you don't touch it for a year or two, but maybe in a year or two, something's changed, or you have new health goals and you want to check in again for a month and check on things. The goal of a dietitian is not to become your best friend that you need you need an appointment with every week for the rest of your life. If we're doing our job really well, we're not just helping you in the moment, we're educating you to make these changes sustainably forever, because it's not a diet that's going to fix things.
So
Absolutely.
true.
When I talk to members, I say, what can you do until you die? like what behavior change can you make that you would literally do until you die? Like, is it walking every day? Like you have to think in that manner of I'm not going to do that. This is how I'm going to live my life until I'm not breathing anymore. And it can sound stark, and it can sound, but it also needs to be so small that you can actually do it every day. And so I think that's what we are doing as coaches, as helpers, as motivators, as educators, is finding what works for that individual to help them have the most optimal health outcome.
Love it. We are really, really pumped to be partnered with you this season, and we're pumped to be wearing our fancy little devices here. Show it to the world. And I'm excited to see what this is going to show me this time around. It totally changed my life last time, and I mean that very genuinely. Like, my sleep and anxiety have changed significantly since learning about the way that carbohydrate impacts my blood sugar. And I'm looking forward to more really big changes, really big reveals like this the second time around, because I think that there's a lot more to uncover still, even in my own health. And I'm pumped to have this tool on board.
So yesterday, let me give you just like a couple observations I've had from this time around. Yesterday, I've had a kind of a stressful week, last week and this week. Yesterday, my 6-year-old had 3 teeth pulled at the dentist. So I had a really balanced breakfast. I made a high protein, high fiber, high veggie kind of breakfast egg omelet thing. And then we went to a museum and I had some nuts and salami and maybe half of an apple about 10 a.m. Didn't get to eat lunch before this appointment that happened close to 2 p.m. So I didn't have anything to eat between 10 and 2 p.m. Then I go to this appointment where they're going to pull my daughter's teeth, and I have my 2-year-old and 4-year-old to keep happy. I have so much. My 6-year-old is this little nervous Nelly, and she is just nervous about it, and they give her laughing gas, and they say to me, we don't think we should give her a shot this time because she's had this before, because it's in the part of her mouth that's so sensitive. And so we're just going to do the laughing gas and a topical kind of numbing situation. Well, that wasn't enough. They should have numbed her like they did last time. And so it was a really difficult 3 minutes of pulling these 3 teeth. And you're a mother. You don't want your baby to hurt. You don't want, you would take it away if you could. You should have forced them. You question every decision. Like, I should have forced them to just give her the shot. I should have this. I should have that. And in the moment you're like, but I just have this baby. Now I have this other kid like, mommy, mommy, mommy. I watched my blood sugar go from like mid 80s, 90s, hadn't eaten in hours. And then it went up to 131. Just the stress of this, which is funny because one of the other times I used the CGM, it was a similar like doctor's office experience with my kid where I saw the biggest shift of the whole 2 weeks had nothing to do with food, had everything to do with stress. And last week, a couple nights I didn't sleep really well and got up early, did the things I know to do because I knew those days I would be much more apt to want to eat sugary things. I would have a higher kind of caloric need to make up for the energy that I didn't get like restful sleep. Like my body was asking for that, even though I might not have actually been burning more calories. And I was like, I'm just going to keep it slow and steady. I'm going to eat the normal things I eat. And I ate like very similar breakfast and lunch 2 days in a row. One day I was rested, one day I wasn't. And the day that I wasn't, my blood sugar was like 10, 15 points higher after every meal. So that lack of sleep, stress, like those are the things that it's probably impacting everyone. How much it's impacting you may or may not be the tipping point of, really big health scares, and could be that 10 or 15 points could be the 10 or 15 points that causes higher levels of inflammation in your body and is affecting something else. And so sometimes getting this data can drive changes outside of the kitchen that are important too.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because that's like the cardinal example I think about all the time. I remember you text me about it. You're like, giant ice cream cone after dinner on Tuesday, no blood sugar change. Arguing with my doctor about these shots, huge blood sugar change.
Yeah.
And that's so
Crazy.
valuable to understand about yourself because here Caitlin could be so strict on herself about sweets and never doing the ice cream cone, never doing the brownie because she thinks it's going to send her blood sugar into orbit. Meanwhile, it's her husband should be the one dealing with the water pressure problem, because like that's going to send her more up the creek than the brownie. It's just so good to know these things about yourself, to like, you need to diet from stress, not from sugar.
I also think it's really important, like that in the moment stress is really important, but we also see that chronic stress that so many women are under,
I believe
particularly
that.
for going through any type of struggle, fertility struggle, month over month, week over week, year after year, or anything that women are shouldering right now, which is a ton. I will get women that are like, I don't eat any carbs. I am so strict. I'm doing everything. I'm working out. Why is my fasting glucose so high? And it's just, they're constantly under stress. It's that silent creep, and they just hover. They hover high. They hover high. And I talk to them about, okay, try and take a walk when you first get up in the morning. Don't look at your phone right away. Don't look at your work emails right away. Don't race around and get the kid. Like, take 10 minutes to yourself outside, whatever it is. Like, chill out, journal, meditate, and 9 times out of 10, it will start to go down. It will start to go down. It might go back up again when they get lunch boxes going and do what they need to do. But like, it is that chronic stress that leaves them at that high level. Yeah.
And that's
I believe
hormones.
that.
I mean, you have so many hormones doing different things in your body, and you are not immune to the inputs, whether it's food choices. Like, your food choices are going to add up and impact your health. Whether it's the pace of life. I mean, I think a lot of us would say we have to live, but for many of us, it's actually we choose to live. Like, you don't have to do all the things. You don't have to go to every birthday party your kid gets invited to. You don't have to go to every family reunion. You don't have to go to every girls' night out where everybody drinks alcohol and you always end up feeling crappy afterwards. Like, you could maybe still go to that and leave a little earlier and have 1 glass of wine instead of 4. Like, you don't have to do all the things. And I think in the fertility space, that message really, like, you need to hear this if you're listening to this podcast because of fertility struggles, because sometimes it is just the thing on top of all the other things you're managing that needs to be let go, is a lot of the extra activity and just the pace of life that most people are living.
100% agree. 100% agree. And now we have a tool to kind of help you do that. So I think we got to wrap this baby up because we're coming to the end of the time here.
So excited to tell you that the PCOS app is sponsoring this podcast episode. The PCOS app is a one-stop shop for all things PCOS. It's also your meal guide and inspo all in one. If you love listening to me on this podcast and you feel like, hey, I want Caitlin to be in my ear every day encouraging me about how to manage my PCOS, then you have to go download the PCOS app. We have curated articles to answer questions that you have about PCOS. There are short snippets in the PCOS Answers podcast exclusive to the PCOS app. We also have recipes where I not only give you the recipe, but teach you within the recipe itself what I have done to make it more blood sugar and hormone supporting so that you can take your own recipes and make them more PCOS friendly. If you've been looking for the Google of all things PCOS with the filter of compassion and expertise that you get from Caitlin Johnson, RD, then you have found it in the PCOS app. Head to your Android or Apple store today, download it, and let's hang out.
Is there any last thing you want to tell our listeners as a sponsor of this podcast this season? Or do you think we pretty much hit it on the head, Catherine?
No, I'm just so glad I got to talk about our new offering with video call chat support, which I think can just be so beneficial for people with the CGM or without the CGM. And just check out our website. We have an amazing blog, so many wonderful articles, all specific on women's health. So if you're unsure of, what, if you want to use the CGM or not, just go over there, check it out, nutrisense.io, and hopefully you'll find something that really resonates with you.
Well, you've heard what you've heard here, ladies. And if this sounds like something that you want to try, which I think it's worth your while, frankly.
For most people.
You should, depending on who you are. I don't want to say everyone should use this because they're not for everyone. If you have a history of disordered eating and restriction, I just want to put that out there. This may not be the right move for you at this time, or maybe you're at a point in your recovery where this would be helpful. Not sure. But if this sounds like something that you want to give a go, we actually have a discount for you. So you can go over to nutrisense.io and use code FFF50 for a cool $50 off of your first purchase.
Thanks for coming on, Catherine.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
I appreciate it.
Next time. See you next time, listeners.
Hey, it's Sophia. If you love the show and want to continue your health and fertility journey using our resources, head on over to foodfreedomfertility.com for show notes, links to products and services, information about our guests, and our newsletter. Again, that's foodfreedomfertility.com. Thanks for listening.